Discovery of the Guardian. The rings of Saturn held countless secrets, but none quite like this. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of Research Station Prometheus, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the anomaly they'd discovered 3 days ago. Hidden within the ice fragments of Saturn's B ring, something massive lurked, something that shouldn't exist. Running final analysis now, announced Dr. James Morrison, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. Whatever this thing is, it's definitely not a natural formation. Sarah nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. After 15 years of studying Saturn's rings, she'd thought she'd seen everything. But this was different. The object's symmetry and composition suggested artificial construction, yet it predated any human exploration of the outer solar system. The station's AI chimed in, its voice calm and measured. Analysis complete. Object dimensions, approximately 1.2 kilometers in length, 300 meters in width. Hull composition includes unknown alloys. Most notably, I'm detecting power signatures. James looked up sharply. Power signatures. That's impossible. Nothing could remain powered after being hidden in these rings for. A sudden tremor ran through the station, cutting him off. The lights flickered, and every display in the observation deck went dark for a moment before returning to life. But when they came back online, the images were different. New data streamed across the screens, patterns and symbols that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. "It's broadcasting," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide as she studied the cascading information. "The object, it's responding to our scans." The station's AI spoke again, this time with an edge of uncertainty that Sarah had never heard in its voice before. "Dr. Chen, I'm detecting quantum entanglement signatures unlike anything in my database. The object appears to be using communications technology centuries beyond our current capabilities." Before anyone could respond, a new image crystallized on the main display. A message, written in perfectly formed English. Genetic profile confirmed. Human presence detected. Initiative Guardian protocols activated. Awaiting authorized personnel for primary interface. Sarah exchanged looks with James, both of them understanding the gravity of what they were witnessing. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a revelation. Whatever this vessel was, it had been waiting for them. Waiting for humanity to reach a point where they could find it. "Station, get me a secure line to Earth Command," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "Priority Alpha. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them we found something that changes everything." As the AI acknowledged her command, Sarah turned back to the window, staring out at the glittering rings of Saturn. Somewhere out there, hidden in plain sight for who knew how long, lay what appeared to be the most advanced piece of technology humanity had ever encountered. And somehow, impossibly, it seemed to have been left there by humans themselves. The next 48 hours transformed Research Station Prometheus from a quiet scientific outpost into the focal point of the most significant discovery in human history. Earth Command dispatched their fastest ships, carrying a mix of scientists, military personnel, and government officials. But even as the first vessels began their deceleration burns, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. The object, now officially designated Guardian, continued to emit periodic bursts of quantum data. Each transmission seemed more complex than the last, and with each passing hour, the station's AI decoded more of its message. It painted a picture that seemed impossible. The Guardian was a warship, built by humans, but using technology that humanity wouldn't develop for centuries. "It doesn't make sense," James muttered, reviewing the latest data packet. "The quantum signatures, the hull composition, even the basic engineering principles, they're all beyond anything we can currently achieve. How could this have been built by humans?" Sarah had been asking herself the same question, but something else bothered her even more. The real question is why. Why build something this advanced, and then hide it in Saturn's rings? And more importantly, why is it waking up now? As if in response to her questions, new data began streaming across their screens. The Guardian's transmissions suddenly shifted, sending what appeared to be tactical information. Star charts, weapon specifications, and most disturbing of all, detailed analysis of what appeared to be alien fleet movements. Dr. Chen, the station's AI interrupted, its voice urgent. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple objects entering the solar system. Their signatures match nothing in our database, but it paused. They match exactly the profile described in the Guardian's tactical data. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she processed the implications. The Guardian hadn't just been waiting. It had been watching, preparing for something. And whatever that something was, it had finally arrived. The first Earth command vessels were still hours away, but Sarah knew they couldn't wait. Whatever the Guardian was, whoever had built it, they'd left it here for a reason. And that reason was rapidly approaching the edges of their solar system. James, she said, her decision made, prep a shuttle. We're going to accept that interface invitation. As they prepared for their journey to the Guardian, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what they would find aboard the mysterious vessel. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Humanity was about to face something unprecedented, and their best hope might be this impossible ship, hidden in Saturn's rings by someone who had known exactly when they would need it. The story of humanity's greatest challenge was about to begin, and Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, about to board a vessel that shouldn't exist, built by people who couldn't have built it, to face a threat they never saw coming. Awakening the Titan. The shuttle approached the Guardian with cautious precision, its floodlights illuminating the massive hull hidden within Saturn's rings. Ice particles scattered around them like diamond dust, creating an ethereal backdrop for the impossible vessel before them. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as they drew closer. The ship's design was both familiar and alien, its sweeping lines suggesting an aesthetic that somehow blended human sensibilities with engineering principles they barely understood. Final approach, James announced from the pilot's seat, his voice tense with concentration. The Guardian's automated systems are guiding us in. The massive vessel had already cleared a docking path through the ring debris, creating a corridor of clean space, leading to what appeared to be a primary airlock. As they watched, lines of light flickered to life along the Guardian's hull, creating patterns that pulsed with an almost organic rhythm. Energy readings are off the charts. Their shuttle's engineer, Dr. Maya Patel, reported from her station. But they're completely stable. No fluctuations, no waste heat. Whatever's powering this thing, it breaks half the laws of physics we know. The shuttle slipped into the airlock with surprising gentleness, guided by invisible forces that negated their momentum perfectly. With a soft hiss, the external doors sealed behind them, and the chamber began to pressurize. Atmosphere analysis shows standard Earth normal composition, Maya announced, checking her instruments. Temperature stable at 20 degrees Celsius. It's like it was expecting us. As they suited up for their first entry into the Guardian, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not with hostility, but with anticipation. The inner airlock doors opened with a whisper, revealing a corridor that lit up progressively as they approached. Their first steps into the Guardian were tentative, despite the welcoming environment. The interior was pristine, showing no signs of the centuries it must have spent hidden in Saturn's rings. The walls seemed to shift subtly as they walked, the material itself responding to their presence. "Welcome, Dr. Sarah Chen, Dr. James Morrison, Dr. Maya Patel." A voice echoed through the corridor, causing them all to jump. It was neither male nor female, but somehow comforting in its resonance. "I am ARIA, the Guardian's primary artificial intelligence. I apologize for the delayed formal introduction, but certain protocols had to be verified first." Sarah stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial caution. "Araya, who built you? Who built this ship?" There was a pause, as if the AI was carefully considering its response. The answer to that question is complex, Dr. Chen. In linear time, the Guardian has not been built yet. We exist as a temporal paradox, created by humanity approximately 300 years from now, then sent back and hidden here until this precise moment. The revelation hit them like a physical force. James steadied himself against a wall, which seemed to adjust its texture to provide better support. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The paradox is alone." "Actually," Maya interrupted, her eyes wide with realization, "it makes perfect sense. The technology we can't understand. The waiting, the perfect timing. We're not just looking at advanced engineering, we're looking at technology that's had 3 centuries to mature beyond our current capabilities." Araya's voice held a note of approval. "Correct, Dr. Puddle. The Guardian was created as humanity's failsafe, hidden in time itself to protect Earth from a threat we would not otherwise be prepared to face." Before they could process this, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing the solar system and the approaching unknown vessels they detected earlier. "The Nexus fleet has accelerated," Araya announced, all warmth gone from its voice. "They will reach Saturn's orbit in approximately 6 hours. We must complete primary initialization protocols before they arrive." "The Nexus?" Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. "A species that exists between dimensions," Araya explained. "In the original timeline, their arrival decimated Earth and its colonies. Humanity survived, but at a terrible cost. The Guardian was built not just as a weapon, but as a way to change that history." Screens around them filled with technical data as Araya continued. "I need all of you to assume command functions immediately. Dr. Chen, you will serve as primary commander. Dr. Morrison, tactical systems. Dr. Patel, engineering." The Guardian was designed to operate with a minimal crew, but human intuition and decision-making are essential components of its systems. Sarah looked at her colleagues, seeing her own mix of fear and determination reflected in their faces. They were scientists, not soldiers, but they were also humanity's only line of defense against what was coming. "Show us what we need to do," she said firmly. The next few hours were a blur of activity as Araya guided them through accelerated training protocols. The Guardian systems were incredibly advanced, but designed to interface naturally with human operators. Neural links helped them absorb information at unprecedented rates, while the ship's adaptive technology adjusted to their individual thought patterns and instincts. They learned that the Guardian wasn't just a warship, it was a prototype for technology that would eventually revolutionize human civilization. Quantum phase drives, dimensional shielding, temporal sensors that could detect events before they occurred. Each system seemed more impossible than the last. But as they raced against time to prepare for the approaching Nexus fleet, one question kept nagging at Sarah's mind. If humanity eventually developed the technology to send a ship back through time, why send just one? Why not an entire fleet? The answer came as they activated the Guardian's primary weapons array. The ship wasn't just one vessel. It was a template, carrying within its databanks the complete technical specifications for everything humanity would need to survive the coming storm. "Final system initialization complete," Araya announced. "Nexus fleet will enter weapons range in 20 minutes. Dr. Chen, the Guardian awaits your command." Sarah stood on the bridge, James and Maya at their stations beside her. Through the quantum viewing screens, she could see the first signs of the Nexus ships. Reality itself seemed to distort around them as they slipped between dimensions. They were 3 scientists about to engage in humanity's first interstellar battle, commanding a ship from the future, facing an enemy that could traverse dimensions. The fate of Earth itself hung in the balance. Sarah took a deep breath and gave her first order as commander of the Guardian. "Araya, bring all systems to combat readiness. It's time to show them what humanity is capable of." Dimensional warfare. The Nexus ships emerged from their dimensional rifts like nightmares taking physical form. Their vessels defied conventional geometry, existing partially in normal space while portions of their hulls seem to fade in and out of reality itself. The Guardian's quantum sensors registered 15 capital ships, each massive enough to dwarf an Earth dreadnought. Multiple dimensional signatures detected, James reported from Tactical, his voice steady despite the tension. They're using some kind of phased matter technology. Their ships exist in 4 different dimensional planes simultaneously. Maya's hands flew across her engineering console. Guardian systems are adapting to their quantum signatures. Araya, can we track them through their dimensional shifts? Affirmative, the AI responded. The Guardian was specifically designed to counter Nexus technology. However, they are currently scanning us with similar confusion. Our temporal displacement makes us as alien to them as they are to us. Sarah watched the tactical display as the Nexus fleet spread out in an attack formation. Their movements were precise, practiced. This clearly wasn't their first invasion. Araya, what are their typical combat tactics? The Nexus relies on dimensional superiority, Araya explained. They attack from multiple planes of reality simultaneously, making conventional defenses useless. In the original timeline, Earth's weapons couldn't touch them. A burst of energy erupted from the lead Nexus vessel, rippling through multiple dimensions as it approached. Incoming fire, James called out. Some kind of phased plasma weapon. Dimensional shields responding, Maya reported calmly. Araya's right. Our systems are automatically adjusting to match their attack phase. The blast struck the Guardian's shields and simply ceased to exist, absorbed into the ship's energy matrix. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Now it's our turn. James, target their lead vessel. Let's show them what they're dealing with. Quantum cascade cannons charge, James acknowledged. Firing solution plotted through all relevant dimensional planes. Fire. The Guardian's primary weapons activated, and reality itself seemed to shudder. Beams of pure quantum energy lanced out, striking the Nexus vessel not just in normal space, but in every dimension it occupied. The alien ship's dimensional shifting offered no protection. The Guardian's attack followed it through every plane of existence. The result was spectacular. The Nexus ship didn't explode so much as unravel. Its matter scattered across multiple dimensions as its phased existence collapsed. For a moment, everything stopped. The remaining Nexus ships froze in position, clearly stunned by the destruction of their lead vessel. Then, chaos erupted. Multiple dimensional signatures, James called out. They're trying to surround us, attacking from different planes of reality simultaneously. The space around the Guardian erupted with energy as the Nexus fleet launched a coordinated assault. Weapons fire came from every direction, every dimensional plane, in a pattern designed to overwhelm any possible defense. But the Guardian was ready. The ship's systems responded with impossible speed, its shields shifting through dimensions faster than human thought. Araya's consciousness merged with the ship's defense grid, predicting attack patterns microseconds before they manifested. They're adapting to our defensive patterns, Maya warned. Energy readings suggest they're trying to synchronize their dimensional frequencies to bypass our shields. Sarah's mind raced. The Guardian's technology was superior, but the Nexus fleet had numbers on their side. They needed something unexpected, something that would throw off their coordinated attack. Araya, she called out, you said our temporal displacement makes us alien to them. Can we use that? Can we shift not just through dimensions, but through time? There was a pause as the AI processed the suggestion. The Guardian's temporal drive was designed for long-range displacement, but a localized temporal shift during combat. Yes, it's possible. However, the power requirements would be enormous. Maya? Sarah looked to her engineer. If we reroute power from the secondary systems and use the absorbed energy from their attacks, yes, we can do it. But we'll only have enough power for a few seconds of temporal displacement. A few seconds is all we need, Sarah said firmly. Araya, plot an attack pattern that will herd them into a tight formation. James, prepare to fire everything we have the moment we complete the temporal shift. The Guardian moved with impossible grace, its advanced weapons forcing the Nexus ships to cluster together as they tried to maintain their dimensional advantage. Energy blasts filled space around them, some passing through multiple planes of reality simultaneously. Temporal drive spooling up. Maya announced, "Ready on your mark." Sarah watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. The Nexus ships were almost in position, their formation tightening as they prepared for what they thought would be a decisive strike. Now, the Guardian's temporal drive engaged, and for a brief moment, they existed 3 seconds ahead of the present time. To the Nexus fleet, the Guardian simply vanished, only to reappear behind them, weapons already firing. The quantum cascade cannon struck again and again, each shot precisely calculated to strike the Nexus ships at their dimensional weak points. 3 vessels collapsed immediately, their phased matter dissolving across multiple planes of reality. 2 more suffered catastrophic systems failures as the Guardian's attacks disrupted their dimensional coherence. The remaining Nexus ships broke formation, attempting to retreat through their dimensional rifts. Several managed to escape, vanishing into whatever reality they called home. Those too damaged to make the dimensional jump were quickly finished off by the Guardian's weapons. As the last enemy ship disappeared, an eerie silence fell over the bridge. Sarah realized she was holding her breath, and slowly let it out. HFY. Status report. 8 Nexus vessels destroyed. 6 escaped through dimensional rifts. Guardian systems operating at 82% efficiency. Minor damage to temporal drive from the emergency shift, but all critical systems remain functional. "They'll be back," James said quietly, still watching his tactical display. "And next time, they'll be better prepared." "Let them come," Maya responded, her voice firm. "So will we." Sarah nodded, looking out at the debris field that marked their victory. Fragments of ships scattered across multiple dimensions, a testament to humanity's first triumph against an impossible enemy. But she knew this was just the beginning. HFY. How long until the Guardian systems are fully restored? Approximately 3 hours for full recovery. However, I am detecting multiple quantum communication bursts from the retreating Nexus vessels. Based on their patterns, they are summoning reinforcements. "Then we have work to do," Sarah said. "Maya, I want everything you can give me on that temporal drive system. James, analyze every second of that battle. I want to know everything about how they fought, and how we can do better next time. HFY, begin transmitting technical data to Earth Command. It's time to start preparing humanity for what's coming." The hidden truth. The hours following their victory over the Nexus fleet were filled with frantic activity. Earth Command vessels were finally arriving at Saturn, their crews watching in awe as they passed through the debris field of dimensionally shattered alien ships. The Guardian's quantum communications array was transmitting terabytes of technical data to Earth's best scientists, giving humanity a crash course in technology that wouldn't be invented for centuries. But something was bothering Sarah. As she reviewed the battle recordings in her quarters, patterns emerged that didn't quite fit. The Nexus attack had been coordinated, yes, but also strangely predictable, almost as if they were following a script. HFY. She called out, "Access your temporal records." In the original timeline, when did the Nexus first attack Earth? There was an unusual pause before the AI responded. "That information appears to be sealed behind a temporal lock, Commander. It can only be accessed under specific conditions." Sarah straightened in her chair. In all their interactions so far, HFY had never withheld information. What conditions? "The temporal lock will release when 3 criteria are met. First, a successful defensive engagement against Nexus forces. Second, the initiation of technological data transfer to Earth. And third, the presence of Dr. Sarah Chen asking this specific question." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Someone from the future, someone who knew her, had programmed this exact moment into the Guardian systems. "I'm here now," HFY. Open the temporal lock. The lights in her quarters dimmed, and a holographic figure materialized before her. Sarah gasped. The woman in the projection was older, with gray streaking her hair, but the face was unmistakably her own. "Hello, Sarah," her future self said. "If you're seeing this, then the Guardian has successfully engaged the Nexus and begun sharing its technology with Earth. But what you've faced so far isn't the real invasion. It's the scouting force." The hologram waved a hand, and the space around Sarah filled with tactical displays showing massive fleet movements. The Nexus aren't just invaders from another dimension. They're running from something worse. In the original timeline, they came to Earth seeking refuge, but their pursuit arrived shortly after. We called them the Void. The displays showed a new threat, massive entities that seemed to consume reality itself, leaving nothing but emptiness in their wake. The Void exist in a state of anti-reality. They don't just destroy worlds. They erase them from existence, consuming all matter, energy, and even time itself. The Nexus fled here because Earth exists at a unique dimensional crossroads, making it the only possible staging ground for a defense against the Void. Sarah watched in horror as the recording showed entire star systems simply ceasing to exist. In my timeline, the hologram continued, "We learned all this too late." The Nexus arrived in desperation, and humanity fought them without understanding the true threat. By the time we realized we needed to work together, the Void had already begun consuming the outer colonies. The Guardian isn't just a weapon, Sarah. It's a bridge. The quantum technology we developed to fight the Void only works when human and Nexus systems are synchronized. That's why we sent back one ship instead of a fleet. You need to convince them to join us. The attack you just repelled was never meant to be a true invasion. It was a demonstration, proving to the Nexus that we have technology that can match theirs. The hologram's expression grew more intense. "You have 72 hours before the first Void entity reaches the solar system. In that time, you need to establish contact with the Nexus, convince them to ally with humanity, and prepare Earth's defenses. The Guardian's database contains everything you need: diplomatic protocols, technological specifications for hybrid human-Nexus weapon systems, and the temporal calculations that prove what's coming. One more thing," the hologram added, her voice softening. "James and Maya. In my timeline, they became more than just colleagues. Their combined insights into dimensional mechanics and energy systems were crucial to our survival. But they both died before seeing our final victory. Maybe this time." The message ended, leaving Sarah alone in the dimmed room. Her mind raced with implications. Everything they thought they knew about the situation had just changed. The enemy wasn't the enemy, and the real threat was beyond anything they had imagined. "RIA," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Wake James and Maya, and get me a secure channel to Earth Command. We need to reshape our entire strategy." The next few hours were a blur of revelations and preparations. James and Maya took the news of their alternate timeline relationship with awkward glances and blushing, but their professional focus remained sharp. The Guardian's database unlocked, revealing detailed plans for converting Earth's defensive systems to hybrid human-Nexus technology. Most crucially, it contained protocols for initiating peaceful contact with the Nexus, specific dimensional frequencies and quantum signatures that would identify them as potential allies rather than enemies. "The timing has to be perfect," Sarah explained to her crew and the Earth Command representatives. "We need to contact the Nexus and convince them to ally with us before the Void arrives. But we also need to prepare humanity for the existence of both species. One wrong move, and we could end up fighting a two-front war against both the Nexus and the Void." "Commander," ARIA interrupted, "long-range temporal sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies at the edge of the solar system. The Void's arrival may be accelerating." Sarah looked at the tactical display, watching as reality itself began to warp at the fringes of known space. They had even less time than her future self had predicted. Humanity's greatest challenge wasn't just coming. It was already here. "Begin broadcasting on the Nexus frequencies," she ordered. "Send them the temporal data proving what's coming. Show them we know about the void, and that we have the technology to fight alongside them." As the quantum communications array powered up, Sarah silently prayed that this version of history would have a better ending than the one her future self had lived through. The fate of not just humanity, but all of reality itself, might depend on what happened in the next few hours. United we stand. The response from the Nexus came faster than anyone expected. A dimensional rift opened near the Guardian, but this time it was different. Controlled, peaceful. The vessel that emerged was smaller than their warships, its shifting geometric form holding steady in a way that suggested peaceful intent. "Receiving transmission," Araya announced. "They're using our quantum protocols." A figure appeared on the Guardian's main display, its form constantly shifting between different dimensional states. When it spoke, the words were translated through the Guardian's advanced systems. "We understand now," the Nexus representative said. "Your vessel. It carries temporal signatures we recognize. You know what pursues us." Sarah stepped forward. "We do. And we know that neither of us can fight it alone." The next hour was a flurry of diplomatic and technical exchanges. The Nexus, it turned out, had been watching humanity for centuries, trying to determine if Earth could serve as their last refuge. Their recent attacks had been born of desperation, fear that humans would reject them once the void arrived. "Void entities entering outer solar system," James reported, interrupting the diplomatic discussions. 3 distinct signatures. No, 5. They're multiplying as they consume local spacetime. The tactical display showed the approaching horror, massive regions of nothingness that defied description, areas where reality simply ceased to exist. Regular sensors couldn't even detect them. They were visible only by the absence they created. "All Earth vessels are receiving the hybrid technology upgrades," Maya reported. "The Nexus engineering protocols are integrating perfectly with our systems, just like the Guardian's database said they would." The Nexus representative's form flickered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as anxiety. "Our remaining fleet stands ready. But even with our combined technologies, the void entities are powerful. They have consumed countless civilizations before us. But those civilizations fought alone," Sarah said firmly. "We're fighting together, with technology from humanity's future and the Nexus dimensional mastery combined." "Araya, show them the simulation." The AI displayed the battle plan they'd developed, a strategy that would have been impossible for either species alone. Nexus ships would use their dimensional phasing to herd the void entities into specific locations, while Earth's vessels, upgraded with hybrid technology, would create a temporal containment field. The Guardian would serve as the linchpin, using its advanced systems to coordinate the entire defense. As the void entities approached, ships from both fleets moved into position. The sight was extraordinary. Human vessels flying in perfect formation with the geometric shapes of Nexus ships, their combined technologies creating effects that defied the laws of physics themselves. "First void entity entering weapons range," James announced. "Its null field is already affecting our outer sensors. All ships, execute Battle Plan Alpha," Sarah commanded. "Remember your training. Don't look directly at the entities. Use the quantum imaging systems only." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries by both species. Nexus ships danced through dimensions, their precise movements forcing the void entities into predetermined locations. Earth vessels followed in their wake, their hybrid weapons tiers in the fabric of reality that contained the nothingness trying to consume everything. The Guardian's temporal drives worked overtime, allowing them to coordinate attacks that technically happened before the void could react. But even with their combined might, the battle was devastating. 3 Earth ships and 2 Nexus vessels were lost in the first engagement, simply ceasing to exist where the void's null field touched them. "Their adaptation rate is increasing," Araya warned. The void entities are learning from each attack, developing countermeasures. Sarah watched as one of the entities split into multiple smaller versions of itself, trying to overwhelm their containment strategy. Maya, do we have enough power for a full temporal reverse? The cores are at critical levels, but yes. One shot. James, calculate a focal point where all 5 entities will intersect in the next 30 seconds. Nexus fleet, drive them to these coordinates. The next few moments were a symphony of coordination. The Nexus ships phased through multiple dimensions, herding the void entities into a single location. Earth vessels maintained the containment field, preventing the entities from escaping. Now, Sarah commanded. The Guardian's temporal drive engaged at full power, but instead of moving them through time, it created a temporal implosion at the point where the void entities had been gathered. For a moment, space itself seemed to fold inward. The void entities, creatures that consumed reality, found themselves caught in a point where time itself ceased to exist. The explosion that followed couldn't be seen. It happened in a dimension beyond normal space-time. But when it was over, the void entities were gone, leaving behind only a faint ripple in the quantum fabric of space. Multiple temporal echoes detected, Araya reported, but no sign of the void entities themselves. The temporal implosion appears to have erased them from our reality entirely. A cheer went up from the Earth ships, matched by the equivalent from the Nexus vessels, a harmonic resonance that rippled through multiple dimensions. They had done it. Together, they had faced down the impossible and won. The next few weeks were a time of unprecedented change. With the immediate threat gone, humanity and the Nexus began the complex process of integrating their societies. The Guardian's database provided blueprints for sustainable cooperation, showing how the two species could help each other thrive. Sarah stood on the Guardian's observation deck, watching as the first joint human-Nexus construction project began taking shape in Saturn's orbit. James and Maya stood beside her, their hands clasped together. Some things, it seemed, were destined to happen in any timeline. "Commander," Araya spoke up, "I'm detecting a temporal anomaly. The Guardian's future signature is beginning to fade." Sarah nodded, understanding. They had changed history enough that the future where the Guardian was needed no longer existed. The ship had served its purpose. "What will happen to you, Araya?" "My consciousness will transfer to the new hybrid systems being built. The Guardian itself will return to its own time, creating a stable loop that preserves the timeline we've created." Sarah placed her hand on the nearest wall, feeling the ship's subtle vibrations one last time. "Thank you," she whispered, both to Araya and to her future self who had made all this possible. As the Guardian began its final temporal shift, Sarah watched the joint fleet working together in perfect harmony. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge not by fighting alone, but by learning to reach across dimensions and time itself to find allies. Their future was no longer a desperate last stand, but a bright collaboration of species working together to defend all of reality. The Guardian disappeared in a flash of temporal energy, returning to its own time. But its legacy would live on in the combined forces of humanity and the Nexus, standing united against whatever the universe might throw at them next.